Colleen's going to talk to us for a bit. Hopefully this will be a back and forth discussion. We're hoping to. As we were looking, we had this place in mind and we were thinking of what a venue, what a topic could be, and Colleen's name came up and the history of the ranch, and how perfect is that in such a setting like this, and we're super excited to have Colleen here. But I'll let her talk about her background. I know she came as a girl from the Midwest, like many families you hear about. They came as young kids and then ended up moving out here. So with that, I'll turn it over to Colleen. Thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you. I'm glad I met all of you because I'm really nervous and now I think you're all friends. So, so Tom called me out of the blue. It was about 4 days before I was leaving for Alaska and said, would you like to give a talk on the history of the ranch? And I'm like, yeah. And then I hung up and I'm like, what the hell did I just agree to? Because I don't speak in public, I'm not a historian, and I've never done a PowerPoint. So I've just gotten back about 5 days ago, and here I am. So I'll have to look at my notes because I'll probably freeze up. So I talked to a lot of you, but are there any people here that have never sat in this beautiful lodge before? Oh. Okay, so a lot of you have, you know how magical it is. And there isn't a year that goes by that I don't get a call from someone or a message on Facebook that they used to work here or they were guests here, and some people even said they owned part of the ranch and they owned Paul's jet. Now, my wonderful friend Robin Soderland, butcher, is here, and Paul's jet was a big Appaloosa we had, and it was named after her dad, Paul, who was the youngest captain with Northwest Airlines. And I stopped down to see Robin today to make sure she was going to be here. And I learned a whole lot, so my first 2 pages are wrong. So Paul actually went to high school with Jim Langston. And your dad grew up in Rappeljay, correct?
Rappeljay, Columbus, went to senior in Billings.
Okay. So those two are really good friends. Now at some point, he got the job with Northwest, and I imagine y'all moved to Minnesota. Yeah. And both my mom and dad had their private pilot's license, and that might be where Paul and my dad connected. We don't really know. A lot of this history's gone, unfortunately. We don't know. So Paul told, my dad had family up near Sunburst, northern Montana, and loves the mountains and horses and hunting and everything. So he encouraged my family to come out. And this is my wonderful sister Jayne in the front row. So Jayne and my brother Roger came out with my mom and dad in the late 50s as guests. And when I was born in the early 60s, I started coming out. Well, first of all, this is my Facebook page. It's got a bunch of history on it. So we started coming out, enjoying a lot of vacations here. And I do have one fun little sidebar that when there was a new jet that was new or had to be delivered from Seattle, Paul would invite my dad to deliver the jetliners back, being a civilian. I mean, would you ever hear of that happening anymore? So those two are really good friends. Let's see, so in 1971, December 17th, this is skipping a little bit ahead, but it's just telling you why I'm standing in front of you, that Bill Mowat decided to sell his majority share to my dad. So that's how we became part owners in the ranch. So this is just that's me and my mother. But we're gonna go way back. And because of my love for this place, I started doing research maybe 10 years ago. And I haven't really looked at a lot of it since then. This isn't new information for me, but we'll go back to Byron and Cora Wood. In 1880, they moved to Nye City. And back then, I don't know, you probably know a lot of history of Nye City, but it was really booming. The population peaked at 400, had 6 saloons, a store, a commissary, and a boarding house. And in 1882, they moved up here and homesteaded what will become Woodbine Ranch. And they had a lot of, this is the old homestead. The pictures are terrible because they're enlarged like terrible. This old spring house was still standing up until maybe 10 years ago. You can see Woodbine Falls. It's kind of fun to look at the trees and compare the trees as to what is still there. You can kind of see that. Another picture of the homestead.
Oh, wow.
And I believe that a part of this was the old dining, what is part of the dining room now, but it's been closed in and I'm sure, you know, improved greatly. But that's, the site of that homestead is where the dining room and kitchen are today. This is Cora and her brother-in-law Will. And her friends would take the wagon train, you know, horse and buggy up from Absorki to come and visit. That's Cora in the middle. I wish I knew who the other two were, but I really don't. And this is kind of neat. In 1911, I got contacted by some people gave me this photo album. In 1911, Roy Painter and Alpheus Wood, who is Byron Wood's nephew, set up a wagon from Norton, Kansas to Nye, Montana. They traveled to Nebraska, to Rawlins, Wyoming, through the Tetons. Look at this.
Yeah.
So that, I think that's the old, it says it goes along the Buffalo River. So I don't think that's the Buffalo Valley Road, I think that's the Togety Pass Road.
I think so.
Right?
Mount
I think
Moran.
that's such a, yeah, I think that's such a cool picture. And Yellowstone Lake, that building is still there, right, Jayne?
Yep.
Yep. Is that the old,
It's the ranger station.
ranger station? Yeah. And this, and when they arrived, I think they weren't very old because it said that when they finally got back, they were 2 weeks late starting college. So I think they were pretty young. So this is them camping, it would be right out here. This building here, I think that turned into the cache, don't you think, where we used to have happy hour.
Right now it's the bathrooms.
Where the bathrooms were, they tore this, unfortunately, they tore that building down. It was really amazing. So that's everybody camping. I love this picture.
Wow.
Ralph Waldo, Vinewood, Rupert Pound and his pal Fatty. Lucia, Roy Painter, and Johnny Waldo. Yeah, I think that's such a great picture. There's Alpheus. This apparently was up by Sue Charlie. Look at his clothes though. I mean, that's not really what you wear to. It does. It has a tie on. And I don't know if anybody knows, Woodbine Falls was named after Byron Wood. His nickname was Bind.
No.
Woodbine Falls, a fun fact. Bighorn sheep, you know, they still come up here, still winter here. And this is part of the album, looking west up the Stillwater River Canyon from a point a few miles above Woodbine Ranch. In the snowy range, the gold miners dig all summer and some stay all winter. They bring deer and elk saddles down to the ranch owned by Byron Wood, where they leave their wagons and go into the gold country by pack trail.
Wow.
Does anybody recognize how far up that is? It's kind of hard to.
That looks like it's up towards the top, like Daisy and Lulu Pass maybe.
Oh, okay. And in 1914, Mr. Wood was involved in litigation with 3M. That corporation accused him of squatting on one of the claims they had established in 1884. And while Byron claimed his ownership and won, he felt he'd lost his freedom of his beloved hills, and in 1921 he sold out to Ed Eicherman. I'd love to get a hold of those court records. That might have to be some more research. I love this picture. That's Sue Charlie. I gotta get a drink. That's Sue Charlie Lake, as we all know.
Which is not a lake anymore.
Yeah. That's pretty sad it's happened. So Ed Eicherman was born in Eldora, Iowa. In 1917, he came to Billings to visit his sister and nephew, Merle Fagg, and got his first look at the Beartooth Mountains. He fell in love with the place and bought the property from Byron Wood and established Beartooth Ranch in 1922. He initially ran it as a boys' camp and took out an ad saying, "A camp characteristic of the Great West. Membership limited to 20 boys, 21-day horseback trip to Grasshopper Glacier, Cook City and through Yellowstone Park over the unbeaten trail, intensive physical training, horsemanship, roping, mountain hiking. Yeah, isn't that cool?
Yeah.
So they had boxing and all sorts of fun things. So you probably have that old table, by the way, you're gonna see in some old pictures here. But I've got a lot of old brochures, on eBay of all places. I've got three brochures from Ed Eicherman. And what I really love, and that's just time's gone by, is these references in the back. Dr. and Mrs. Edward Mitchell, 891 Vance Avenue, Memphis. Isn't that cool? Would you ever see that these days? So these were, I can't tell if this was from I think these two were from the boys' camp before he turned it into a dude ranch. And again, he's got, and it's really fun to page through them, they're all back there. Yeah, Dr. William Cubbins, 104 South Michigan Avenue, Chicago, Illinois. And then, let's see, June 1 to October 1, Telegraph Station, Exorcy Airport, Billings, Montana, Railroad Station, Columbus, Montana. Established in 1922. And you can read through the brochures, it's really fun. It probably was the boys' camp because it says, one of them says where the boys stayed or something. But they're really fun, where the boys live. The boys sleep in large 16 by 16 waterproof army tents, which have wooden floors and walls. Yeah, so that was pretty neat. Let's see. 2 years later, he expanded to, oh, this is cool. All Ed's guests came from all over the world, and some of them plenty famous. Among them were John D. Rockefeller Jr., his sons Henry DeWolf Smith of the Atomic Energy Commission, the noted mountain climbers Robert and Miriam Undersell, the sons of Gilbert Lagarce, the president of National Geographic Society, Clay Saunders Jr., whose father started Piggly Wiggly. Did you guys have Piggly Wiggly? Grocery store? Other numerous guests include artists, photographers, doctors, scientists, and even some millionaires, many of whom return year after year. And that's, I think, and he came up with the Hardcore Bar brand. I did talk to his grandnephew, Sean Freeman, and he sent some pictures while I was in Alaska, which I added to this. He calls him Uncle Eddie. Let's see. Yeah, isn't that cool? So if you walk out there, you're gonna see this little horn, antler, and this stub of this one sticking out. So part of those antlers are still up in the chimney. And you can see the spring house there still. What was that? Oh, they covered in the porch. I wish they
They
had.
tore down the covered porch of the bell.
Oh, yeah.
The bell's gone, that was the.
Yeah, the bell. Oh, ringing the bell for dinner time. So many memories. Oh, I thought that was mine. Yeah, I love looking at their clothes and all that. I mean, it's amazing that that building is still standing. Some pictures of, this is probably after, it turned into the Dude Ranch. Do you think that's
Yeah,
Snuffy?
it is. I think it's Snuffy.
That's what I thought too. He must have been 100. It's fun having people that, I was hoping that Nokia would be here. He's not here, is he? Yeah. I don't know, so we've known him since we were little kids. Yeah, so this little Shetland pony, Snuffy, right here, honestly, he must have been 100. And that's probably Gypsy over there. And,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. I love this Piney. We call this Piney. To do saddle fitting on that. Yeah. I mean, isn't it amazing that we're sitting in this building and that's it right there? Just can't get over it. Again, the pictures are really pixelated, but just a normal morning at the corrals. The Eicherman sisters, Mary, Jayne, and Beth. Photo by K.D. Swan, 1941.
There's another Susan also.
Pardon me?
There's another daughter, Susan.
Oh, there is another daughter, okay. Let's see. Writers on Eicherman's Beartooth Ranch, Marcia Fagg, guest photo, and a guest, Marcia Fagg. So, how many remember cover it later, but we had the Dayton cabin up on Sioux Charlie. We had maybe, what, a 50-year lease, 100-year lease. And then there was the fag cabin, and we called it the motorcycle cabin. Remember
Wasn't
that?
that further south? The motorcycle cabin?
That cabin's first. right
First,
here.
and then the motorcycle, oh, it's right here?
Yeah.
Right here.
Oh, so it's the fag cabin and the Dayton cabin that were way up there?
Yeah.
Okay, and they
No,
were,
no, the fag cabin is right here,
okay,
and the motorcycle cabin is right after the gorge.
right,
And then the Dayton cabin is up at Charlie.
yeah, okay. Saddling up at Beartooth Ranch. The horse on the right is Dynamite. More riders. The pony on the right is Knee High, so that's not the 100-year-old
It
pony
looks
we
just,
thought it was.
it looks just like Snuffy. It looks just like Snuffy.
Packing up at Eicherman's Beartooth Ranch for a pack trip, I imagine. And I don't know where this is. There was a cabin down on the way to the Stillwater, and I think that might be it, right there. More Beartooth Ranch dudes. Now, this table is right back in that corner. Isn't that neat? And I am lucky enough to own 2 of these chairs. These are old hickories. They were supposed to go to auction at the museum, but I did a big donation so I could have them. I'm sorry for anybody that wanted those. But those were, I'd love to have this wicker rocker.
That's awesome.
So these back in 1940, I sent pictures to the owner of Old Hickory Furniture Store on the East Coast. It's a big company. And the price for that back then was $5. And there had to be thousands of people that sat in those chairs, and they weigh, how much do they weigh, Jim?
20 pounds.
20, 25, I mean, they're heavy and solid. There isn't a wiggle or anything. They're so heavy duty. But yeah, you can see the improvements. They sandblasted the whole lodge here. But this is the house that Langstons lived in that burned down. We were talking about what year that would, don't you think that was back in the late 50s?
Yeah.
I mean, not in our lifetime,
I kind of
really.
don't remember when.
You
No,
remember?
it was later than that.
It was later?
Because I remember Dad coming out.
Okay.
It was in the 60s, early
Yeah.
60s.
And that would be the cabin Zorka.
Which is gone now.
Catherine has it.
That's right.
Yeah, so these are the boys. That looks to me like Jim Langston, but I don't really know.
It does.
The pictures might be a little out of order. Get another one of the lodge, people on horseback. Another, oh, this is from Sean Freeman at Eicherman's great nephew, sent me these.
Colleen, can you go back to that last one, because that last picture is before the pond was there, right?
This picture here,
Go back again.
oh,
That's where the pond is now.
yeah, that would be over here, wouldn't it? The little lake.
And that's an old tailing pond actually from the mine.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. Oh, it is?
I knew you'd be useful here.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, it really hasn't changed much. Okay, where were we? Oh, that's kind of a funny one. Can I, am I in your way? No? Okay. That's great. I don't know who that is. Another one of the furniture and
And
the way the lodge
Starbucks.
looked. Yeah, right there. That's kind of a funny pack trip going out.
Colleen, what happened to the Molesworth furniture?
I don't know.
I don't think we have any.
I would love to know where that Molesworth furniture went, because that's right there. There were a couple of them.
Doesn't the museum have Beartooth have a few pieces?
They do have some.
Yeah, they do have some. It was really hard because you all know that for 20 years it went to pot. Half the cabins are gone. I mean, it's a big ordeal to keep everything up, but it was really disappointing to see how bad it got. That looks like it's up the gorge. Okay. In 1955, Jim and Ellen Langston, Bill Mowat, and John Dory Mowat purchased Beartooth Ranch from Ed Eicherman. Ed and his wife moved to Scottsdale, Arizona, but Ed returned every summer and continued taking people on pack trips. So they put out something called the Beartooth Ranch Wrangler, a little newspaper to send their guests. And this picture here, here are guest wranglers Tom, Bill, and Jim Bates of Edina, Minnesota, are typical of the early birds that Marion Yingling likes to watch each morning bring in the horse herd. So Jim and I in Minnesota, we bought an Airstream for our wedding, and we went to the Airstream dealer in Anoka. And there's this crazy guy working as a mechanic or in the ship, in the store. He looks like Billy Idol. He's much older, but he's got bicycle chains, and I like odd people, so I wanted to get to know him. And by the second time we went up there, I had my phone, and I said that our honeymoon, we're going out to Montana. He goes, oh, we used to go to a ranch out there. And I had my phone, and I flipped, and I had the lodge, that lodge picture on there, and I said, oh, this one? How do you know Beartooth Ranch? This is him. That's him right there. And when I found this on eBay, and I read through it, I'm like, oh my God, Billy Bates, you're on the cover of my Beartooth Ranch. So I mean, everybody loves this place. It just has affected everybody. This is one of the old brochures from Jim and Ellen. Typical morning at the Robin. You speak out if you know any of these people.
Well, they look really familiar, you know.
And I believe that's Ellen.
It looks like.
I don't know who the little kid is. This is June 1963, maybe up by the meadows on a pack trip. Oh, this is great. Karen Prescott worked here in '79, and I really wanted to find her, and I finally found her somehow. And she sent me her employment letter. Salary is $175 a month. That includes room and board. I think I have a pay stub, and I think I made like $100 for the summer. It was terrible. Would you please send us the names of 2 persons from your hometown to whom we could write to for references? Karen, since we run a family-oriented ranch, we would like to impress upon you the necessity for circumspect behavior with both the male members of the staff and the guests. No visiting in the cabins. I don't know if that was adhered to. I thought it was. I can tell you that. So I spoke with Ellen before she passed away, and when they bought the ranch, she said, they made their first payment in the fall of 1955, and their first season was in 1956. She said that her Uncle Willie told them there was a possibility that Ed may want to sell. She called the executive secretary of the Dude Ranchers Association, which at the time was in Billings. The executive secretary mentioned the possibility that Ed Eicherman was looking to sell. She said they did not set out to run a dude ranch, but her Uncle Willie Mowat, who had familiarity with the Stillwater Valley, urged them to buy. In fact, he was very suggestive of the idea. Let's see, Billy Bates. Let's see what else is next. Oh, there's Jim. The saddle barn and the shop and the office, they all rotated, remember? They all rotated. And Tom, you were asking me, did you ask me if there was a big barn down here? Never had a barn, just the saddle barn.
And it was at 2 different locations, mostly.
Right. My dad, on the left, purchased, we were from Mound, Minnesota, purchased Mound No. 1 fire truck. And he brought it up. He loved old crazy things, and I think it was his excuse that if there was ever a fire, he'd be able to help. But I think he just like bought it and made my mom mad. I don't know how he got it out here. Did he drive it? Or
I think he towed it.
towed it?
Yeah.
So this is John Mowat here, me, Christopher Mowat, and my dad. And every now and then when they bring the adults to Carter's with Friday nights, kids would load up in the fire truck, lights and sirens all over the campground. I don't know if they ever found out, but here's me on Sister Kate, my brother on Gypsy. I don't know who this gal is. My brother on Gypsy. That horse bucked me off in the campground. We were wrangling, the horses got out, and yeah, if you had anybody that could ride, she'd buck you off. Jim, that was building we call them the apartments. Taking a break there. Ellen and James, I believe. Oh, this is fun. In 1972, we even hosted the crew from Apollo 17. Do you guys remember that? Commander Gene Cernan, Command Module Pilot Ron Evans, Lunar Module Pilot Harrison Schmidt, and John Young from Apollo 16 was one of the trainers. They spent 2 days exploring the igneous formations on Iron and Crow Mountain in a mock-up lunar rover, like my husband said, that looks just like a tractor. Preparing for the final Apollo moon landing, and Gene Cernan and Harrison Schmidt were the last humans to walk on the moon. Yeah, my mom tells a story of, oh, here they are, up in the hills.
And up on the Beartooth Pass too.
Up on Beartooth Pass. My mother, here with, I think that's Gene Cernan, she brags about having a snowball fight on the pass with him. The week at the ranch included home-cooked family-style meals, happy hour outside the cache. We had 2 rides a day. Towards the end of the week, we rode to the base of the falls and hiked up to the brink. None of that sissy stuff going to the Overlook. We went all the way up.
Overlook wasn't even there then.
Overlook wasn't even there. Fridays, we had an all-day ride to see Charlie. And I remember, I mean, we drank, this is Cora Creek, named after Cora, Byron's wife. I wish they'd dig it out because it was bigger and they put a culvert in. So you used to have to drive through this kind of a pond. Remember that? Do you guys remember that? We drink out of that. Remember there was little gravy.
We all shared the same thing.
We all shared the same thing, drank out of that creek, made lemonade and iced tea out of the water. Oh, all the water from the ranch came right out of the creek. There was sand in the sink sometimes, remember that? Saturday evenings, we were set aside for square dancing with Ted Wall, who would spike his squirt can. It was mostly vodka or something and, you know, not much squirt. Sundays, we all reset for the upcoming week with 45 new guests. So that's a typical day. I mean, I can name some of those horses there. I know you guys can. Probably bore everybody to death, but.
That's Apache on the end there.
Apache.
There's Paul's Jet
Oh,
right
yeah,
there.
yeah.
I thought he was 17 hands, but I don't think he was that big.
No, and that's Idaho on the other end.
Yep. Let's see. So we'll go through some. Oh, that's my brother on Peblet, the donkey.
Oh, yeah.
Peblet. Totally fell asleep. Let's see. Is that Kathy Penner and Sue Penner? They were probably the babysitters. That's what the saddle bar used to look like. There's your mother,
Yeah,
right here.
here's my dad.
That's your dad?
No, the yellow shirt.
Right there? Okay. That Jayne, I
I
think
think
that's,
it's me,
I
yeah.
think that's Jayne right there. It was always fun to, everyone
Everyone's
would
like Jim standing next to my dad.
gather around
Yeah.
the corrals every morning.
The bald spot.
Edith Hudson was our cook for many years. We also had Gertrude the cook, and we actually had a milk cow that was named Gertrude, so I was a little confused about milking Gertrude. Kelly Russell, Kelly Tryon, you know Kelly? And Roberta Hudson. Roberta gave me some of these photos too. And Edith had a little, remember back a long time when you'd have your autograph book, like in school or whatever? So Maddie Whitaker, I knew I'd forget something. You knew Maddie Whitaker, Huey Whitaker. So that was, Maddie signed it. I think that the Marlows, he worked, my dad was an executive with Tonka Toys, and I think Bob Marlowe worked there. Edith, we've spent more time on your phone than Jim's horses. Thank you for your patience. Your usual happy outlook. You can have a slot in our company anytime. And then the Wreckers. There's Gretchen right there. Were you born? Because there's only 3 little faces there. We all had fun and ate well, the Wreckers. Dear Edith, we do love you and all the good things you are serving us. Oh, how I hate getting on the scales. And Fridays, Thursdays, we'd go down to the river and have steak fries. That used to be there until the flood took everything. It's all gone. I'm glad I took a picture of that night. There's Brad and Kate. There were some shenanigans that went on. And here's our dear Robin, right here. Here's Billy Recker, right there. Jayne right
Boy,
there.
that's a
Get in there.
Halen Penners, Brad. There's Robin again.
Kelly.
Yep.
Taylor.
And some shenanigans. And that is my sister.
Sarah and I were just goofing around.
Is that Paula Shortridge
I think so.
on the right? That's me. But his brother was a jerk right there. He was looking at
You should talk about your brother that way.
no,
Sarah, Melissa, I took that picture.
yes, everybody had a beer in their hands, including
And
Christopher.
Christopher.
Oh, and Jim Langston, he has got this story. He said he'd always tell the guests to always cover your coffee cups when you go outside because everybody who comes here wants to be cremated and they want their ashes sprayed on the floor. So when you hear an airplane, you cover your cup. Look at that hat. That's my brother on the left, Jim floating some teeth. There's some old pictures again, not great quality. Dory and John, Dory in her dressage saddle. We all thought that was kind of funny. Jack Kruger, I did text him and he didn't answer, but is that Little Chief or is that Paul's Jack?
Paul's Jack.
Typical scene. The Dayton cabin up at Sioux Charlie. This is had to have been 65. Mike, sorry, I can't read it. He is with the Forest Service. And this is a fairly more recent picture. It was all, I think there was a
When it became wilderness in '78, we had to take it out.
okay, so it was all
Hauled
this.
out
That's
the
my
big old
dad.
stove.
And Jim Langston, they hauled that old stove up there on horseback.
We packed it out on horseback and then burned the place
Yep,
down,
they had to
too.
burn it, and my dad built the bunk beds that were up there. Maddie Whitaker, best horsewoman around. Maddie and Robin over there. You're gonna have to come take a bow here pretty soon. That is, I can't remember his name, he worked with my dad at Tonka Toys. That's the cabin we stayed at that's no longer there, I believe that's,
Easy
could even
living.
be our station.
That was the same one we always stayed at too.
Yeah. Another,
Oh, there's me and Gary.
yeah, you and Gary, big rock went down up the gorge, nothing to move it with but crowbars. There's Robin again, that's me. Robin, look at you with your braids. That's my sister at the cache.
I could tell you a really funny story about my braids.
Jim and Rad. Ellen, every dog she had was named Zipper or Rocket. More of the same. And am I forgetting something? Let's see. In 1979, the decision was made to liquidate and dissolve the Beartooth Ranch Corporation. My dad was in charge of the sale since he had business experience, and the 159.59 acre ranch sold to Anaconda Mining Company for, who wants to guess? In 79. Anybody want to guess how much?
I know.
Huh? 675,000. For many decades, the ranch was subject to neglect and disrepair. John Beaudry from Stillwater took over the restoration. Many of the cabins needed to be demolished. Let's see. And that, I'll give anybody $20 if they can find that on the property. You know where it is. And that's it. Yay! So if anybody's got questions, or after the meal, if anybody wants to do a little walking tour, I'd love, Jayne and I, you're kind of gimpy right now, we'd love to walk around and give you a tour.
We had not tried yet to see Charlie,
Yeah.
since it's not there, but when we say it's not there, what is there?
The cabin that we had is gone. It had to be burned because of the regulations in wilderness area. You can get up there, you just go up and over Dead Man's Pass.
Right.
But the gorge,
But is the lake actually gone, is Sioux Charlie?
when someone said the lake is gone, it got washed out.
The lake is gone because of the flood.
Yeah.
It was really just a wide spot in the river anyway.
It was a wide spot in the river.
Yeah, it wasn't
Yeah. But Jim, last year Jim and I were hiking and talked to the workers, or maybe it was 2 years ago. They have the money to fix the gorge trail, and they're trying to get that through because it's a big bang for your buck. If you're slightly handicapped, you can get up and see that gorgeous portion of the trail pretty easily. They have to go from above and build pilings and all. So I know that they're trying to get it rebuilt. I just don't know if it's going to happen in our lifetime. And I tell you, like anybody else who grew up here, I cried and cried because I can't get up there. It's devastating. And even walking back here to see the scarring and the wide river, I mean, it's really
You can
sad
kind of
for a
get
lot
by
of
it
us.
now. We just thought there was a lot of water you can skill.
Numbers counting so that we can communicate with everybody in the community about the different things that we do and everything. So it's a sales pitch. So it's your decision. I don't charge extra for this. Ron's wondering, Charles, you're at it again. Thank you very much.
That's the hard sale for the Stillwater Protective Association, and Charles is always an advocate for that. And it's just, it goes to the beauty of the valley and the uniqueness of the valley, and why people came up here for, to the Dude Ranch or Guest Ranch or Boys Ranch. But there's a reason they sent their kids, or they came up year after year after year, because this is a unique, special place. So
Yeah.
we're happy to that we can try to prolong that, and we work with the mine very closely, try to preserve this valley and this lifestyle. That's what the mission of the Soderland Protective Association.
Did the branch close because of economics or?
I think it was internal politics. I think there was a lot of,
And after it sold, the Langstons ran it for several years after that as a guest ranch still for the mine.
I think anytime you get three families
Yeah,
together, there's
three
gonna be
partners.
drama, and I don't honestly think my mom ever liked it here. She loved being an executive's wife, and she was great. She did a lot of things here, but it was my dad that really had his heart here, and it was hard. She was here most of the summers. He was working, and Jim and Ellen and John and Dory, I think there was some family drama that went on there, and I think it just ran its course. Anybody else?
Any other questions?
Who's hungry? Okay, honestly, just grab my sister and I. We'd love, like, especially Mo and Kitty, I'd love to show you guys this place. If anybody wants to walk around and just see everything, we're more than happy to do that.
Thank you, Colleen. I'm sure glad she took my call when I called her out of
Oh.
I cold called her.
Also,
So that was great.
this is one of the old saddles. Number 24, I rode in this, I tacked horses up, one of the old t-shirts, and then all the old brochures and stuff. But this is one of my prized possessions. If our house was ever gonna burn, I'd grab this.
Please look around next door at home. There's a food truck, there's a buffet style across the lawn.
You can look at it.
Make yourself at home.
But the company goes back to the late 1800s, and that's probably where it comes from.